Okay. Well, we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the SharePoint Framework Community Call. Wow. It's September 18th, 2025. Yeah. All right. There we go. Let's take a look at what we're talking about today. Of course, we're going to talk about what's going on with that SharePoint framework. And then we're going to look at all of our community project updates. I think we've got about 5,000 of them, so that'll take a couple minutes. And then we're going to take a picture together. Woo! And then we've got Lukas is on here. He's doing his first time presentation. We're very excited to see him building his first ACE. Well, hopefully he built, before this demo, but I guess we'll see. All right, and then Hugo's up, also a first time presenter, probably. I don't know. I've blocked any other occurrence that may have occurred before. All right, so we've got an exciting full demo call for you today, and let's take a look what we got here. So first off, if you're not aware, we've got a ton of stuff for you, right? From a series of videos over on YouTube, we've got a LinkedIn page if you want to go over there and business it up. We've got a whole series of open source repositories with thousands of samples, a ton of tooling for you, all sorts of things, and you can find all of that by heading over to our aka.ms/community/home, where you can find all of the links to all of these things, including links to join the calls. And in fact, we've got some changes to these calls. David, you want to go ahead and tell that? Because I don't really know what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Yes, it's going to be a wowie moment, everybody. Ooh. So we have, as you see here, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly calls with Microsoft speakers, right? So that's on the Tuesday. That's 8 a.m. We all know and love it. It's the product managers, the program managers sharing with us all the cool new updates. We've got our monthly Power Platform. We've got our monthly Office add-ins. And then we've had what we call the sibling bi-weekly calls. So the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community and the SharePoint Framework community. And the topics flip-flop each and every single week. So it's still a call every Thursday. It's just that the name of it seems to have been flip-flopping each and every week. Well, we are going to combine them into a single name. You're still going to have the great Thursday, a 7 a.m. on-time call that you know and love every single Thursday. We're just going to simplify the name so that it's Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community Call. And so you'll see some updates there. Really nothing changes. All the AKAs you already have on your calendars will all still work. You won't need to download any new invites. Don't worry about that. You're just going to see a simplification so that we can say we're having a weekly Microsoft speakers call and a weekly community call. They're all calls. They're all for the community. One is powered by Microsoft speakers and one is powered by community speakers. So it's really a simplification, but nothing really logistically changes. Tuesday calls are staying. Monthly Power Platform calls are staying. Thursday calls are staying. We're just normalizing the name so it's easier to tell everyone about them. So there you go, Chris, back to you.
In classic Microsoft tradition, we are renaming something. So if you've worked with Microsoft very long, this is very familiar to you, right? We're taking a specific name and we're making it more generic. Yay, we did it. All right, let's go on. Speaking of which, that Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call on the 23rd, so coming up here in about 5 days, we've got Paolo and Sarah and Matthew all doing some cool demos, so be sure to join us for that. It'll be exciting. And of course, if you would like to be one of the people on one of these calls and you'd like to present, please come over here and fill this form out. We would love to have you, whether it's your very first time, like Lukas today, or you've been around about 1 billion times and everyone's sick of you, like Hugo. We would love to have you. Just come on over here, whether it's getting started or you've got something else. If you're just interested and maybe it's a good topic or not, fill it out. We'll be happy to talk to you and see what we can find some fit and see how it all works. Thanks. All right, and perfect. Now let's talk about this, David.
Yes, let's talk about this, which is sharing is caring. And we got a call scheduled for October 13th. It's a Monday. We are turning those forms on. Teams has been doing some weird teamy things this week, so we're trying to get everything set up so that you can register for that. But do put it on your calendar. It will be on the 13th, and we will be letting everybody know in the calls when that link is live, as well as on the socials. So if you want to kind of pre-block that day for yourself, or at least pre-note that day, that's when we're going to have it. And what is sharing is caring is hands-on guidance to all the wonderful things you're going to hear everyone talking about today, such as the samples. But to contribute, you got to interface with GitHub, and that can be confusing. So we're going to demystify it and make it easier for everyone who joins this call. We're going to talk about what those weird terms mean, like fork and blame and pull requests. We'll demystify it. We'll work together, and it's a safe space, which means it is not recorded. So you're free to ask any and all questions that you would like without fear of it going on record, because a lot of times we're afraid to ask questions when that happens. So we don't want you to be. We want you to be empowered. We want you to have fun, and you'll be able to meet other members of the community. So it's a great time. So keep an eye out at aka.ms/sharing is caring. And by the way, it counts as a contribution. And why does that matter? Well, because our recognition program is alive and well. This is a best-in-class recognized recognition program by Credly, not us. We knew it was always best in class because of all the amazing work you're doing, but they have formally and officially recognized it. And this is something that we provide to you all for free. These badges are long-standing. They are accredited. They are official. You can put them on your blog, on your resume, on your LinkedIn. Send them to mom. She'll be proud. We know we are. We're still in the middle of superhero season. We've got just around the corner, October, or Hacktoberfest is coming in the month of October. You'll only need to make one contribution in the month of October to earn that Hacktoberfest badge. And hey, by the way, they're doing a whole 8-bit throwback that you can kind of see going on there. So we're going to add to it. Great Scott! That's a hint to what those thematic throwback badges are going to be. I think Chris is going to love it. Great Scott! See what I did there? Anyways, you're going to love it, everybody. So do need you to opt in, ak.ms/community/recognition. It's absolutely free. We cover the cost. We do need you just to opt in so we can track the GitHub work you're doing. If you've already done it, don't need to do it again. And we'll start sending those out soon. Chris, back to you.
Ooh. All right, Vesa, you want to tell us all about this SharePoint Framework? I don't know what that Vesa?
Vesa's muted? Vesa in the house?
Double me unmuted. Here we go. Maybe I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I'm unmuted. Okay, cool. So SharePoint Framework, nobody has never heard about this one. So let's go to the following slide. Quick update in here, and just a recapping on, we don't show you exact numbers, but we're talking about tens of millions of monthly active users using custom SharePoint Framework components. And as expected, after the slow period in summer, the usage is again skyrocketing. That is a chart showing you the monthly active users, a ratio between January 2021 and January, actually September 2025. Let's go then to the following slide, where we talk about the roadmap. I didn't do massive amount of updates in here. We're working on a public blog post. We're moving into this kind of a monthly blog post mode as well, so making sure that everybody's up to date on what's happening. 1.22 beta is intended to go out in September 2026, so there's an updated version of it, and we're looking into doing some pipeline changes, clearing some of the NPM audit flags, all of the security issues there, and some other adjustments. And then we do have a lot of other additional things which might be in 122, 123 by end of the year or later, including, for example, list and library panel overrides, which are being explicitly mentioned here as well. So we do have a clearance on a lot of this stuff as well. Now, let's go to the following slide where I can see that there's a new picture because I can see it on the, it's going to pop up pretty soon, probably there. Just to recap, there we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Whoever did this, beautiful work. And now on the left side, just to recapping field customizers, there was a announcement back in June related on we're evaluating potential deprecation of field customizers. Answer is no, we're not going to do that. Based on all of the feedback coming from customers and partners, there are no plans to deprecate field customizers in list and document libraries anymore. So thank you for your input on that one. And then on right side, there was a kind of a regression related on the new page template model where single page app parts were not visible. That obviously has been addressed with the new experience, which is available when you create new pages within sites. But that's a quick recap and clarification for both of those. So those are addressed, and beautiful picture. I guess there might be some AI on that one, I guess.
What? No!
But that's all on my side. Let's move on.
We did it, everybody. All right. Let's talk about some open source projects. Woo. Let's see. So, Adam, are you around here? Adam.
Yeah, I'm around. So this time we have one new blog post on our blog site, website, whatever. So it's Microsoft lists how to create dynamic indentations based on title length by Sai Siva Ram Bandar. Probably I totally mispronounced, so sorry for that. Be sure to give it a read and be sure to share your knowledge on our blog post with other community members. And if you do so, you will get a blog author's badge for your efforts. So happy blogging, everybody, and back to you, Chris.
Yeah, and I'll say Sai has actually done a ton of list formatting contributions lately, so I'm sure he's got some really great stuff to say. Awesome. So now let's talk about our Copilot prompt library. So that's another area that you can contribute. So please head on over to our PNP prompt library, where you can find all sorts of things to help you get started, so you're not just staring at the chat screen and weeping, as I often do every morning. There we go. Perfect. And speaking of that, prompt of the week. So Roger here had a lovely prompt here about analyzing project plans to identify risks. So this is a great prompt here, just trying to figure out what's going on with your project, see what's risky, right? See if Bo is on it, that kind of thing. Perfect. All right. But if you would like to share a prompt, we would love it. And your prompt may even land you as prompt of the week. Woo. And speaking of that, Bo, what do we got about this PNP.js stuff?
Good morning. We have no update. So 4.17, we decided not to push out this month because we had no changes. We're actively working on version 5 right now. So there's a tab within the GitHub. It's a project tab. You should be able to see it and see kind of what we're thinking about for version 5. And yeah, if you're not using it, use it. Back to you, Chris.
Good job. Gary, what you got? Gary?
Hello.
Gary. Hey.
Find the unmute button. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Chris. So we have a new release of CLI for Microsoft 365. This is the V11 beta. As was mentioned in previous calls, we are at that time of the year where we're going to do a major version. This time when we clean things up, we make some changes. There are some breaking changes, but we also add new things as well. So let's go on with the new things. So we've got 3 new commands, one for Outlook, one for Microsoft Entra, and one for SharePoint Online. So creating new search folders in user mailbox, assigning role assignments to users and setting the scopes at the same time, and also retaining file versions as well to make sure that you keep a particular version of a file. As noted, there are breaking changes. There are 12 at the moment. If you want to find all the details of those breaking changes, go to aka.ms/CLI-M365/notes, and we encourage you to try out the new version, the new beta, so you can use the @next tag on npm or Docker to get that, and make sure that you're updating your scripts and things so you don't break things when you move to version 11. Moving on, Chris, to the next slide. Thank you. So we have a new beta of DevProxy. This is 1.2. So this is a small update. So we've got a performance enhancement where we're optimizing the caching of the graph open API spec. So if you don't know, you can use DevProxy to mock the whole graph API, and we download that, and we're being more efficient around that. It's quite a large file, so that was a good improvement. One improvement that we have made that we think is going to be really, really useful is being able to mirror mock responses. So this is really useful if you're doing a post to create objects and you want them mocked. So let's say you pass through a username in your request. You want that username that you've passed in to come back in the mocked response. So now you can actually do that as well. So we'll spot all different types of properties, which is going to make DevProxy even more useful for when you want to mock APIs for your applications. So if you want to get the latest version of DevProxy, go to aka.ms/devproxy, and we have the instructions on the Get Started page where you find all the installation information. And that's it. Back to you, Chris.
Ooh. Well, and fun fact, behind the scenes here, these are actually all different pictures of Gary with wildly different emotions. But as he is a British person, they all come out this way. So, all right, let's talk about reusable SPFx controls. So if you are not using these, shame. Just kidding. No shame, but it's a great idea to use these. They are awesome. They will really launch your development much further. I always use them, especially if I'm using React. I use the React controls, but the property controls are awesome. And of course, we've just had some releases here at the end of July, so be sure to check those out. Lots and lots of people working on this. Fantastic stuff. And Adam, why don't you tell us all about the toolkit?
So we had a new minor release as well, so like a pre-release, 4.9.6, and we had some performance improvements in this release to make the extension smaller and quicker. So basically, we try to trim our biggest dependency, which is CLI for Microsoft 365, to only use from this dependency what we actually need. So we made like our own version of it. And there will be more exciting upcoming changes. So we are prepping for the 1.22 and the changes that will be coming in the new versions of SPFx when it comes to project scaffolding and the whole using of refactoring of using Heft for the build toolchain. But at the same time, we are prepping and we'll have 2 PRs in the pipeline quite soon that will allow you to SPFx Toolkit to support any version, also older versions of SPFx. So currently we are validating your environment for any version of SPFx, also some old ones that you can, I don't know, maybe still use it for on-prem or whatever. And yeah, that's all what we did. We basically have all the team was engaged in the CLI major release and we are focusing there. But after that, on October 1st, we have some issues ready for you. So if you're planning to join this event, be sure to give our repo a check for those easy to go and try out and implement issues to learn and code with us. Okay, that's about it. Happy coding, everybody, and back to you, Chris.
Woo! And over to Casper. Casper.
Thank you, Chris. We have no new release for this month, but I would like to point your attention to our sister repository, which is PnP Modern Search Layouts, because when you've created your beautiful setups with your search, perhaps you need to trim or change your layouts to be slightly different from what we provide out of the box. And this is where we have the repository of different layouts provided by the community. In this case, for instance, it's Phil Maynard, who created a event card search result layout, and it's all of the code is available on the repository, and we would welcome any contributions, of course, from you. And you don't have to make it all production ready, just samples showing how you could, for instance, create a slider or any other kind of web part. So have a look there yourself if you need some inspiration for your search layouts, or you have some contributions that you would like to offer to the community. Just ping us and we'll set it up. And back to you, Chris.
Woo! All right. It seems like Hugo finally found the merge button on the PRs for the samples. So let's tell us all about that, Hugo.
I'm sorry for being so slow at processing pull requests, Chris. All right, so we have tons of updated samples in the SPFx web parts sample and extensions. I'm not going to list all of them because we have pretty much 3 contributors. We have Sudeep, who's created the React flag template and style list. We have Nello, who has updated about a bazillion web parts to SPFx 121.1, and Harminder, who has created the content web part. Again, we welcome everyone's contributions. We welcome everyone like Nello to update samples, to bring them up to date and add functionality, because those are open source and the intent is to share and to educate. If you contribute, you get a fancy badge, like the sample contributor SPFx web part. You can see all the samples by going to aka.ms/community/samples. And if you want a shortcut to the samples itself, you can go to aka.ms/SPFx-webparts. That's it. Back to you, Chris.
Woohoo! Awesome stuff. All right, and Anoop, want to tell us all about the ACEs?
Yes, thank you, Chris. So we do not have any new samples this week. However, the ACEs repository can be found at aka.ms/SPFx-ACEs. Just to let you know quickly about ACEs, ACEs are the customizable part of Viva Connections. They help you view information quickly at a glance, like you can see on the screenshots over there. This information can be surfaced from various systems within an organization, annual leave system, expense system, etc., or from external sources. Microsoft provides some of the ACEs out of the box. We can create our own custom ACEs using SPFx. And the SPFx ACEs repository is one such place where you can find all the custom ACEs. So do take a look at the repository, and we love new samples. Back to you, Chris.
Woohoo! Awesome. All right, everybody. Turn your cameras on. David, do your sound effects. Do it. Woo!
There you go. All right. Let's get those cameras turned on, everybody. It is time. We're in the auditorium today for some learning with Lukas and Hugo. Look at that. They're sitting right next to each other. How coordinated are they? Awesome. That is very, very good. All right. Good deal. I see a Nuke down there. I see Vesa, Casper, Adam. All right. Let's get going here, everybody. Give another opportunity. We can wait just a second. We're a little over time, but we're okay because we only got 2 demos today. And, oh, wait. Actually, Hugo's the second demo, so we're going to have to go 4 hours. We're just going to get through the early years of Bernier. All right. Good, good, good. All right. All right. Let's do the countdown then. Let's do the 3, 2, 1. And let's wave to the community. Everybody, great to see you all again. Thank you for showing up to these each and every single week. Really appreciate all of the efforts that you put in to be here and contribute. Makes opportunities like these calls, like the sample repositories and the badge program work and continue to function successfully. Really, it is only a success because of all of you. So thank you so, so much. You are amazing. All right, Chris, back to you.
Woohoo! All right, and we're going to get started with our demos here. I got to say, every time we do all these intro slides, though, I am blown away by what the community has put together and is continuing to do. So, great job, everybody! Wow-wee! Now, let's head on over, though, and see about building your first ace with Lukas. So, Lukas, whenever you're ready, you can take over the screen and go for it. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. I hope everyone can see my screen, and
Yep.
I can start with my little demo. I've got a little bit, maybe first of all, a little bit about me. The image you maybe saw in the slides before are very old, so I've created my own, and you can see me in the camera. What do I do? I'm a senior M365 consultant at Communardo. I have about 10 years of SharePoint and Microsoft experience. I'm 32 years old, soon to be father, and I love music. I love American football, play it myself. And season is on, so yeah, good times. Where do I come from, and what do I want to show you today? So basically, what I am initially, long time ago, I'm an economics student, and somehow I drifted off into IT. And now I'm like trying to fake it till I make it, basically. So especially with software development, it has always been something that has interested me, but I didn't have the background for it, and I tried to ease into it, basically. So once I turned into the IT guy, or what got me into IT was basically SharePoint on-premise, which I did for at a company. And I did configuration in SharePoint. I always dabbled into CSS and a little bit of HTML and tried to fiddle around with it to improve SharePoint on-premise, which was a lot easier back then, or a lot easier to do, I guess, and you had more access to it in the on-premise world. But once we got to SharePoint Online, it was a lot more difficult, or also I didn't want to customize as much because obviously it's software as a service, so you don't want to customize too much and maybe have it break sooner or later. But what I did on the side is, and I always basically had the interest for a little bit of coding. So what I did for my culture club in my free time was build like a cash register where you can select different products, and it gets added up, so nobody has to do the math in their head. And you have like some kind of revenue where you can see how much was being sold and how many products were sold. So I did some stuff there with HTML, JavaScript, PHP, CSS. So it's more of a development job or a development thing that I did there. But it never happened on a professional basis. So during my job, I stuck to PnP PowerShell or basic scripting, basically, or list formatting with JSON, all of those things that can be done in the front end, but I never really went into the depths of SPFx. But what I always thought, at least, was, well, adaptive cards shouldn't be super hard to do, right? There's this framework. It's very well, not very simple mechanics behind it, but there's mechanics behind it that I understand from my experience with SharePoint and with Microsoft 365. And so I thought, why can I not do this? And I guess there was never really the time to do it, or never really the use case there for it. which changed in 2025 or beginning of 2025, where a secret use case appeared. And I don't know if David has a Pokemon battle sound effect on his soundboard, but maybe that would fit here. So 2025, we had like this use case from a customer that showed up, and basically they needed a Viva Connections dashboard card to link to a very specific website for each, or depending on the logged in user. So I'm going to illustrate here. Basically, they wanted to get to their department intranet homepage with as little clicks as possible from Viva Connections or from the Viva Connections dashboard that you can enter into Teams. For everybody that doesn't really know how Viva Connections works, so usually you would connect it to your central hub in SharePoint, and that would be the central entry point here, the red box here, and that would be connected to Viva Connections, and then you would go there when you click on a thing, and you would go there. And you could create a card based on audience targeting that would send user A to department 1 and send user B to department 2 and so on. But in this case, it was quite difficult because we had a lot more than 50 departments. So there's, first of all, there's like a limitation of how many cards you can put into Viva Connections. So using audiences was kind of not on the table. And you could also not use multiple experience because it would be kind of a maintenance nightmare, right? Because you would have to change every dashboard every time you wanted to make a change, and it would kind of not work out because all of the other contents on the dashboard should be the same for all of the users, right? So what did we think of, or what did I think of? I thought of, well, maybe that's the time to show up and do my own thing and create maybe an adaptive card extension that just adapts depending on the department of the current user and sends them to a specific link. So how did I manage to do it, or what did I have going for me basically to start this endeavor? Obviously, I had a very strong SharePoint M365 background over the years built up. I did have my development, quote unquote, know-how from the early days when I built this cash register app for my club. And obviously these days you have the nice AI helpers like Copilot and ChatGPT, as I like to call it. But basically what I did basically was to ask them, hey, let me know how can I build an adaptive card? What do I have to do for it? And basically let me guide. Let the AI basically guide myself through the process of creating this card. And I just figured out, okay, you can just very easily do it if you just follow the steps one by one. And that's also one of the big philosophies that I had behind it, or one of the principles that I had behind, which I also followed when I built my private cash register app, which was basically just start really small, start with one little thing, and then just add on to it. So you can always think of more stuff that you can do, but if you think of all of that stuff and want to do it right away from the start, it's quite difficult to implement like a huge project or to create a huge project without knowing the basic steps first. And so what I did was I just basically did iterations. I started with a very, very simple card that links just to a simple URL from a SharePoint list. So basically the card gets a SharePoint list and links to a URL that sits in a column. Then I try to display the department of the current user in the card. So basically just trying to find out how can I fetch the department or the user property, and how can I display it in the card dynamically. Then I went ahead and looked at the SharePoint list and said, okay, now I know what department the current user is from. I can get data from the list. So how can I filter this list and just retrieve the item that I want the user to see, or the data that I want the user to see? Then I went ahead and did the same thing for a picture, which then led me to card layouts, right? There's like a basic card layout and there's an image card layout, which gives you different options. So you're basically learning on the go and figuring new things out. And sometimes it means actually that you have to redo some things, because in the basic card, that one thing would work this way, but in the image card, you can't use it anymore. So you have to adapt and do other things. then I chose to make the list and the site dynamic, so the list can be created anywhere. I decided to enable filtering based on the groups and not on the department, which I'm going to show in the demo. And then I did create some dynamic text tokens in the card, so it looks a little nicer and it can be adapted a lot easier by end users. And then of course you have to do some nice things in the end, like make it look nice, have some default values, and make it basically not production ready, but make it ready so it can be presented at least to somebody who doesn't care about software development and just wants to have the nice things at the end. And then obviously one of the big things is you got to ship it to GitHub somehow, if you wanted to have it into the samples library, which obviously is very important. But AI also can help you with that, right? Copilot knows how to add to the repository in GitHub, and it can help you with it. Or you could just always come to the community calls and talk to the people here that can probably help you a lot better than I can, or than AI can. Yeah, so let me hop into the demo real quick and show you what I'm actually talking about. So basically, in the end, what we want to do is, and Anoop showed a picture of it actually. So in Viva Connections, you have these cards, and these cards basically just show some information. You can have even more information being shown, but I just wanted a basic card that acts as a quick link basically to redirect the user to a certain URL. And I'm going to show the code really quickly. I'm not going to show much of it because honestly, I did maybe like 70% of it. I didn't really write the lines of code, but I know what happens here. And the most important thing that maybe for somebody that's starting out and doesn't know what all of these things here do, which I myself actually don't, right? I know the three main objects that I have to edit, right? Which is the adaptive card extension, which is the property pane, right? The property pane is where you modify basically what properties you have in your card. And the adaptive card extension itself is basically just what happens in the backend. And then you have this card view, which basically is the front end, right? Which gets shown to the user. So these three elements in the code are basically the main things that have to be edited. And obviously there's some other stuff that might have to be edited, which AI helps you with that a lot, or helped me at least a lot with it, because I'm not a software developer by trade. I don't know the whole project setup in Visual Studio Code. I just know what code does, and I can interpret what these functions do. For example, let's look at some of these functions. There's one function that gets the office location, which is it looks at the user and it gets the office location of the user. I don't know how to write this code, or I don't know the exact syntax, but I understand what it does. And if AI helps me to write it, then I can verify it and I can check, okay, yeah, this does what I want. And obviously, I'm not going to go as far and say, okay, AI can write the full code and we just ship it like that. But at least I know what I want from it, and I can verify at least some parts of the code. Then we have functions here like to get basically the user properties. We have a function here to get the group membership of a user, right? Because I implemented a function to get the department or basically show an URL based on group membership. And there's a function in here that does the filtering of the list by the office location of the user, right? And so there's just basic things, or there's functions that happen in here which I can understand. And as I mentioned with the building blocks or the building bricks, you just got to do them one by one and look at them. Same thing in the property pane, in the card view. I'm not going to bore you with VS Code anymore, but what happens in the end, or what comes out in the end, is basically just an adaptive card, which looks at a list. So I have a very basic list right here. It has a location, right? In this case, location Heilbronn. This is my hometown.
Hey,
yes.
Lucas, would you mind just zooming on the webpage just a little bit?
Sure.
If you don't mind, thanks.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So in this case, in my profile, right, on my dev tenant, my working location is set to Heilbronn, which is the property that I'm calling from the user, right? So I'm looking at at this first column. I'm looking, what's the entry here? It's called Heilbronn. Get me this URL, get me this image, and show it to the user. Yeah, so what do I have to do? I have to do some configuration, right? I have to say, where is this list? This list is on my dev site. What's the ID of this list, right? You can get it from the settings. You can get the ID from here. You can enter it here. And then you have this mode here. We can say, okay, I want to do it based on the office location, or I want to do it based on group membership. Membership. I'm not going to show this right here. You can read it in the documentation or in the README, which is because it's going to take too much time to show now. But you can change the title, of course, my location. You can have some description. You can add an icon. Say, for example, let's use a globe, and then you have like some default images that you can set here. And if I look at it in preview, then you can see, oh, now it shows my location, it shows the image, and if I click on it, I go to this URL, which is in the list, right? And that's the very basic use case that I want to realize. And one more thing that I wanted to show, right? There's this token that I implemented here. So go to, and I can just type a token in here, and it will be replaced with my location, right? And it's going to say go to Heilbronn in this case. Yeah. So this is basically how the card itself works, which is the demo part of the demo. And now I'm going to go back and just give you a few, like 2 last slides regarding challenges, right? So obviously this is not a super production ready enterprise solution, right? Because it's not built by a professional developer. I already fixed one of the issues where if you were in too many groups, then it wouldn't filter correctly. So I had to redo the filtering with the group memberships. And there might be other issues like that, which I don't know of yet. Obviously, there's the risk of forgetting. And when I try to build my next adaptive card, right, I might have to start at square one or square 1.5 at least, and not know what I did in the past, because I'm not doing it on a daily basis. And obviously, it's mostly vibe coded, right, helped by AI, which some companies don't like, or some users don't like at all. But what did it do for me? Obviously, I built my first adaptive card extension. I learned very much, and it helps me in my daily consulting job as well, because I know how these things work now, and I can tell my customers, yeah, we can do that, or that can be done. We can build your solution for that or not, and I can help them there. Obviously, it was very fast to prototype. And the solution is really flexible, right? You might not want to link to a department page. You might link to a menu plan or to a parking spot overview or whatever, which is dynamic based on location. So you can adapt it for very many things. And the key takeaways, I guess I don't really have to say too much to that. You can just read them yourselves. And I will hand over back to Chris. And thank you all for your attention. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find the sample in the repository. Let me know, and see you soon.
Wow, very cool. Thank you very much, Lukas, for sharing and walking us through how all that worked. That was very helpful. And now we'll do something a little different in terms of helpfulness and switch over to Hugo. Get it? Oh. Hugo, whenever you're ready, go for it and take it. But thank you very much.
I resemble that remark. All right. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I see it.
Woohoo. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Hugo Bernier. I am the world's laziest developer. And today what I want to talk to you is I'm not going to show you code. I'm going to talk to you about an idea. So the idea is something that we'll build together over the next 10 or so sessions. And it will end up, hopefully, if all goes well, it will end up being something that goes on to be an open source initiative that will be maintained for the many years to come. So let's
start with the foundation, right? The Microsoft 365 community has lots of really cool samples for web parts, team applications, or Teams applications, Active Card extensions, and they always come with a disclaimer, which is this is for education purposes only. It's not really intended to be used as is. You can, there's nothing stopping you from using it as is, but that's never really the intent, right? We don't want them to be production solutions. In fact, we don't even distribute the packaged web part samples because we want you to open them up, look at the code, and learn from it. But what if we did create a ready-to-use web part? And what if we did, for example, like the PnP Modern Search web part, right? Which is something that is built by the community. Casper always updates us on these calls. But what if we build something like the PnP Modern Search web part that was a web part that people can use? And what if we did that together? Now, we'd like to do this as something that we could use to demonstrate best practices in web part design, functionality, configuration, and application lifecycle. But like the PnP Modern Search, it would also be extensible and welcome community contributions, especially if you think about the layout library that Casper just talked about. And what better web part could we build than a web part builder? Something maybe that's inspired by the SharePoint card designer. And the SharePoint card designer, it's great, but let's face it, it's not as flexible as what we'd like it to be. And what if we could make it easy for people to build secure web parts without writing code? And we're not talking about vibe coding yet. We're just talking about building from samples and things. And what if we allowed people to pick from a large collection of samples? In fact, let's go back and take a look at in the SharePoint experience, right? We have list formatting and list templates. And when you go to create a list, it actually offers you some really cool template, right? And it allows you to import from different things. But if you look, there's also a series of Microsoft templates. And then you have templates from your organization. Well, what if we did something like this for your web part builder that added maybe another tab, which was from the community? In the case of list templates, we happen to have beautiful. There you go. Thank you. Is that my Pokemon sound?
But better late than never, but that's all for you and Lucas.
Awesome. So we already have a beautiful repository of list formatting samples and lists. Hopefully we could turn this into list templates and things like that. So imagine if we had the Microsoft list creation experience pulling templates from that. Now, this is something that I was bugging the list team when I was working at Microsoft. Nothing ever happened from that. But we can actually build something ourselves that will work from a web part perspective, not from a list perspective. And the idea is based on something that I built a long time ago, which is an adaptive card web part. And I built this. Let's just take a look here. I built this in 2020. So obviously, there's an opportunity for us to update this web part, and there's an opportunity to add functionality. Since then, there's been lots of updates to the adaptive card framework. There's even been a cool control that's been added to the PnP reusable controls that we'll talk about. But let's start with a demo. All right. Let's see if we can make this happen. So first of all, if you don't know what an adaptive card is a JSON schema that you could use to build things where you separate the presentation from the data. And it doesn't use code unless you consider JSON code.
And it's something that allows you to build something that will adapt, hence the name. It will adapt to the environment in which it resides. So if you go here to this really cool designer, and you'll notice, by the way, there's a brand new adaptive card designer. I'll show you that in a minute. But here I can actually just completely change what the card looks like by following a schema that's predefined. I can change the data, and then I can just show the data in different formats. So within Teams is what I meant to select, within Viva Connections, and so on and so forth. So the idea here is we're separating the presentation from the data, and we make it adapt in the environment in which it resides. And in fact, it is theme aware as well, although I guess I need to pick an environment that supports themes. And so that's the idea. Now, Microsoft has updated recently the adaptive card framework. And this is one of the changes that we would need to do is we need to adapt the adaptive cards. But let's go take a look at that part that I'm talking about here. And because I need some cool samples to show you here. All right, so this is the web part that I created. And this is the web part that we will be updating and configuring in the future. So the first thing that you do is you can see that I can either pick from JSON that I'm going to copy and paste, or by a URL where the JSON is stored. Just for fun, I will take a sample here. I'll update the template JSON, and I will paste it. And if everything goes well, cool. I just picked a calendar. That's not at all the sample I wanted to show you. But let's just pick another one here. There you go. We'll take this one. And cool, right? So now the cool thing about this is if we had a web part that allowed us to enter adaptive card data, we could actually allow people to build web parts that maybe, like for example, this is a web part I've had to build in the past, and a cafeteria menu web part for a large university. Imagine if we didn't have to build the web part. Imagine if I could just copy and paste either from a list of templates or, well, use a secret tool. Now, adaptive cards also use adaptive card templating, which is you could hard code all the data in your JSON here, or you could actually use a data source. And in the sample that I built, I allow you to either provide a JSON, select a list where the data will come from, or get data from a URL. And that URL could be an API, for example, an open API or something like that. So let's actually move on here because I don't want to run out of time. But, and these are examples here of other examples that I copied and pasted. In the SPFx, the PnP SPFx controls React library, we actually have a series of controls. And one of these cool controls is the adaptive card host. So the code that I built 5 years ago, right? That can kind of we can throw that code away. We can start leveraging the most up-to-date version of this code. And the cool thing about this code is that it is adaptive to themes and high contrast and things like that. However, there are new things that have been introduced in the adaptive card schema, so we'd have to include that as well. Now, let's go back to here and talk about the idea, because today, again, we're focusing on the idea. Now, what if on top of what we've shown you, with the idea of templating, the idea of copying and pasting or creating adaptive card schema, what if I could do something that I showed you the last call that I was on, where we were able to build a mermaid diagram web part, which allows you to actually chat with AI to say, hey, AI, I need you to build this for me. And it would generate the content. In this case, it's a mermaid diagram, but imagine this would be an adaptive card, and it would show you a preview right away from here. So our goals here would be to do the following. First, we'd want to build a web part that is ready to deploy, just like the PnP search web part. We'd want to make sure that it's secure, that there's nothing that you can post or put in that adaptive card code that would compromise the data or the environment. We would want to make sure that it's easy to customize, either by changing the adaptive card or do other crazy things like that. And we want to make sure that it's extensible. The PnP search web part is incredibly extensible. That's one of the strengths of it. And that's what we want to do. We want to build a web part that will make it easy for you to extend it. So maybe you need to adapt it to suit your organization's needs. For example, add functionality that you need only for your organization that's not shared by the rest of the world. Also, we'd want to make sure that it is theme aware, obviously, because we're beyond just the single color sites that we used to have. We can have multiple colors in different pages, different environments, and even different sections. And probably most importantly, we'd want to make it look and feel like an out-of-the-box web part. But let's talk about the functionality, right? So we've already talked about we want to add pick from a template. We'll want AI-assisted creation. And one of the fancy things that we'll want to do from that is also allow you to upload an image or draw an image and say, hey, can you create an adaptive card from this for me? Again, we'll make it theme aware, data connected. But data connected here, we want to extend the types of data that we wanted to be able to pick from. We'll want to support custom actions so that I can actually submit the results of a form, maybe, or things like that. There's another concept that we'll want to introduce, which is the concept of dynamic data, right? In dynamic data, you can have one or more web parts that are connected together and they feed data from each other. So for example, the upcoming events list here is dynamically connected to the event detail web part. So when I select a different event from the list, I can actually feed that data to the event detail. We also want to, so we've added dynamic data aware. There's another thing we want to do. When you search for content in SharePoint, right, you expect, or when you see content on a page in SharePoint, you expect to be able to search it. The problem is most people, when they create a custom web part that has content, they usually forget that that content might need to be searchable. There is functionality that's built into SPFx web parts that allows you to specify metadata values for your properties. And those metadata values could be things like, hey, this is searchable. So when I create content on my web part or I set an attribute on my web part, I want it to show up in search results. It can also select it to be a HTML string, in which case it is searchable, but it will even fix the hyperlinks if you move images or documents around, and it will strip out the unsafe HTML. There's other things like image sources and links and things like that. But one of the things that we want to do here in our fancy web part is to make it so that if you create adaptive card content, that it is potentially searchable by users. So property metadata. And then one last little thing we want because we can't predict how our users are going to use that fancy web part creator, we want the web part to support something called full bleed, right, or full width experience. And so by doing that, we would allow people to put that web part in the upper section of a page. So let's add that to our things. And then finally, we don't just want to support full bleed layout, but we also want to be Teams aware and
work with every environment in which web parts can be hosted. So what does this timeline look like? What we're over the next 10 or so sessions, we'll be doing the following. We'll introduce the adaptive card web part or the web part creator web part. We will show you how to create a custom property pane that suits our needs. And then we'll introduce the AI-powered layout creation. We'll add multimodality, which is the ability, again, to work in different modes, specifically for image creation, image-based creation. And then we'll add UI theme awareness. We'll add full lead rendering for flexibility, indexable content, data connectivity, and then we'll introduce, and by this time we should have had enough time to actually build a repository to have our sample galleries of templates. We'll have a user experience to pick from our templates. And finally, we will focus on increasing the extensibility to make it possible for people to add whatever crazy functionality they want. So that's it for me. We have more coming up in the next several sessions. But if you want to read more about the topics I've discussed today, you can find on the slide, and I believe Dave has already shared all the URLs in the chat. That's it for me. Back to you, Chris.
Wee. All right. No, I'm really looking forward to this series. It's very exciting. Can't wait to see where you go with this. And I hope it all works, And if you would like to be on the call, whether it's a series or not, or if you'd like to participate in a series, maybe with one or two of your closest buds, that'd be awesome. So we would love to hear about that. We've got the form in the beginning to fill out to be on the call, but we'd also would love to hear about ideas for series and topics and other stuff, as well as the format of the call and the kinds of demos we have. And if you would like to fill that out and let us know, head over to this link. We do read it, and it does affect how we do things, and we greatly appreciate any and all feedback. That is a way to give back to the community as well. All right. So speaking of which, if you'd like to also talk about things and talk about people within the community, we have our lovely Discord server, so you can head on over there. We've got over 3,000 members. I'm just going to claim that we've got even more than the slide says. But that's because after today, we're all on there. It's going to be amazing. So please come on over there. We would love to talk with you. There's all sorts of things there. You can ask for help. You can continue the wonderful chat we've had going here in the calls, and you can talk about things there. And then, of course, we want to thank you, and we'll have all of this recorded and put onto YouTube within 24 hours from now, so be sure to check that out. And then, of course, join us for our next community call on the 25th, so that's 1 week from today. Join the live if you can. If not, we'll see you on the YouTubes. Wow! Hey, that's all. Thanks, everybody. Great jobs.
Wow-wee!
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.